response and dynamics and relationship buildings that pays dividends for all of our facilities, including California.
Tremendous. Great. Any thoughts from, yes, Mr. Knight?
I have a couple. First, thank you. B2 flew over my office today, and I always get a text message when it flies over and how thrilled they are. It's a very diversified workforce that we have with the major contractors here in California. And obviously, one of our issues is always trying to keep these well-educated jobs here in California. As I turn this sheet over from one of the gentlemen earlier, we talk about some of these states that have increased probably from major organizations, major businesses. I know that Assemblywoman Butler brought up Alabama, but Georgia and Maryland and Texas. You know, and we see us down at the bottom at minus 17% of losing these jobs. Now, I guess I'm trying to get to a specific. I know that electricity is normally cheaper in other states. I have some very big hangars in my district in Palmdale. Very difficult to keep those climate controlled and very expensive. So I would put electricity as one of those issues. But you brought up the enterprise zone. I'm long-winded getting to my question here. I know that the enterprise zone, Boeing and Northrop and Lockheed and major groups are inside that enterprise zone. Could you maybe expand just a little bit on what that brings to a company, what kind of an advantage that brings? I know I get to tour all three of the major facilities. In fact, I'm going again to see Boeing on Friday. And that is one of the things that they tell me is one of the great advantages to being in Palmdale, but we have 42 enterprise zones in California.
I'm going to make a general comment, but then I'm going to ask Marcia to respond specifically to your question, Assemblyman Knight, because she was active in the creation of that in the first place. So I think she's much better versed than that. The comment I'd make to you is, in the university system in California, we're second to none. It is an amazing system. In fact, it attracts students from all over the world. I think harnessing that potential through collaborative endeavors, through student work programs, through sabbaticals for the faculty, I think the more of that we can do close by, the more we can take advantage of that. So I think proximity in an educational, academic sense is important. That's a general comment I wanted to make. Now I'm going to give the floor over to Marcia.
Thank you. I'm going to say generally, not only do we develop programs, but we manufacture them in California. And our four biggest new programs, I don't think it's a coincidence that they're being manufactured in Palmdale. Some of the engineering may go elsewhere, but they are manufactured in Palmdale. Fire Scout, Global Hawk, the F-35, and the UCAS. The unmanned air vehicles. So for us, we hire within the community. Our business plan is such that we want to bring economic benefit to the community. We believe that that's what an enterprise zone should do. So we try to hire from within the community, and Palmdale's, we on the average, our wages are much higher percentage-wise in Palmdale. The credit for that which is low compared to what we pay, but there is a tax credit for a certain proportion of those wages. There is a credit on manufacturing equipment, which I believe California is only one of 3 states in the nation that doesn't provide it, yet within the enterprise zone it does. We do get that. So those are some of the things. So when the enterprise zone was created, I believe that we have fulfilled the obligation that we saw in terms of the manufacturing and putting money into the community with the net benefit.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Girding and Marcia. Very nice to have you here. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Next up from Aerojet, Ms. Elizabeth Zacharias and also Deborah Rickman from the Space and Launch Systems. Welcome. Thank you. please, whenever you're ready.
Thanks. I'm representing Aerojet as the Vice President of Human Resources. And with me today, as you mentioned, is Deborah Rickman, my colleague. She's Director of Space and Launch Systems. So we'll be just speaking to you briefly about some of our particular interest in the aerospace and defense industry as it exists in California. First, just a little bit of an introduction to Aerojet. We are a major aerospace employer in California. We're headquartered in California, right here in Sacramento, where we employ just over 1,600 people. We have 3,100 employees nationally, 10 other states where we have operating locations, in addition to several here in California. California's historical contributions to aviation and aerospace are too precious to let slip away, so we are very interested in the reinvigoration efforts that this committee is focused upon. We hope our remarks are received in the spirit meant. Some of them are fairly pointed in terms of where we're coming from, but we have a sincere desire for California to continue to lead the pioneering spirit that conquered space and inspired the imaginations of generations of Californians to look toward the stars. As far as our history, we've been operating in California since 1942, and we've led the way in the development of crucial technology and products that have kept America strong and furthered both manned and unmanned space exploration. Our engines have propelled Gemini missions into space and placed Apollo astronauts in orbit around the moon and brought them home again. Our Space Shuttle Orbital Maneuvering System engines performed with a 100% success rate on every shuttle flight throughout NASA's 30-year Space Shuttle program. We also supplied the liquid rocket engines for the U.S. workhorse launch vehicles, Titan and Delta, and we now have a significant market in tactical missile and missile defense propulsion as well. We have a successful air-breathing hypersonics propulsion program, and we boast in-space propulsion on every NASA Discovery mission and have played a significant role in civil, commercial, and national security space programs, where we're the leading provider of in-space propulsion systems. I'm going to turn things over to Deborah to talk a little bit about the technology aspects of Aerojet.
Thank you very much for having us here. One of the things that we have done is provide a white paper to your staff, and Elizabeth and I are making comments from that white paper. We chose not to do a formal PowerPoint presentation. We did have the pleasure of hosting many of your staff members on a tour of our Sacramento facility last week. And I'd like to extend the invitation to the members of this committee to take a similar tour and see the type of work that we're doing at Aerojet. Some of the technologies are really quite exciting, and they do require a very educated and talented workforce, not just in terms of college graduates, but in terms of the operators that actually build the products here in Sacramento. Being a little bit of a nerdy chemist and engineer, I have to talk a little bit and brag a little bit about the technology types of things that we're doing in Sacramento. Our propulsion efforts, and we are a propulsion contractor, so we support the Lockheeds and the Boeings and the Northrop Grummans with power systems for launch vehicles and missiles and so forth. We have a number of Department of Defense programs, and our technologies, as Elizabeth was pointing out, have a strong root in space exploration. Aerojet's been long recognized as a U.S. government, or by the U.S. government, as an innovator in this industry. We're really quite proud of that reputation. We were just recently awarded, within the last few weeks, a recognition from NASA headquarters for the innovative work that we've done in liquid oxygen methane-fueled engines. That's really quite an honor to receive. We've been doing work in many innovative areas, such as afterburners for liquid rocket engines. You think about that in jet engines, but not so much rocket engines, high-efficiency combustion devices, and engines that run on clean or green propellants. We see that as a wave of the future. Unfortunately, there's so much turmoil in the market right now. Finding an outlet for these technologies is pretty difficult. As we heard earlier in the day, there is a lot of uncertainty in the direction of NASA. There are bound to be cuts in defense spending, and so, you know, this has put us into a position where we're continuing to develop advanced technologies. One of the real exciting things that we've done is a rocket engine turbopump that operates at 90,000 RPM. It pumps 14 pounds per second of liquid hydrogen. That's about 15 gallons per minute of water equivalent. This device is about the size of a swimming pool pump. It's being tested at Edwards Air Force Base down in Southern California. We have a great partnership with the technology group down there. We also have a significant number of launch vehicle propulsion products. An example of that is NASA's Juno spacecraft, which was launched less than 2 weeks ago. We had the solid rocket motors that were on the first stage of that launch vehicles. They provided 1.9 million pounds of liftoff thrust. We also have the reaction control thrusters, the things that will move that spacecraft around and position it on its way to its mission. We believe that the U.S. needs to focus on developing the next series of propulsion systems. It's been 50 years since this country has invested in an upper stage liquid rocket engine. That's really amazing. The engine that's currently being produced is being produced in Florida. We'd love to have a competition so that Aerojet could step forward and build that engine in California, or the next generation engine in California. Also looking at opportunities within NASA's new heavy lift launch vehicle and the space transportation system for a booster engine. Again, it's been since Space Shuttle was developed many, many years ago that this industry in propulsion was exercised and developed a new booster engine. That's one of the real challenges that we're facing right now, and as Elizabeth will get into in just a moment with our workforce, we've been hearing about the aging workforce in this industry. Aerojet is not immune to that. We have not had the opportunity to bring in and mentor on a new, exciting program young people alongside of our aging workforce, and that's a real opportunity missed if we don't do that in the next few years. So I'd like to turn over to Elizabeth now.
I will get into some of the challenges that we have around the workforce issues, especially in California, but just a few statistics to frame where we're coming from. In the past year, Aerojet has hired 333 people. Of that, 190 of those positions were filled in California, the majority here in Sacramento. We do have some smaller locations in Southern California as well. 34 of these positions were new hires from colleges, with 31 coming from the traditional STEM education fields that we've talked about earlier this afternoon. So while our numbers overall are much smaller than the other companies on your panel, there's still significant numbers, I think, from an employment, new job creation, new employment creation perspective. Of our California hires, our average salary was approximately $84,000 annually. Much of the hiring that we've done in California has been for professional level positions, degreed individuals coming out of college or people with experience. Less so on the manufacturing side, although we do have manufacturing operations here as well as in Vernon, where we do some hiring. We currently have just under 200 positions open in California, a little over 100 of those, 200 positions open company-wide, about 100 in California. Again, most of those right here in the Sacramento area. About 40% of those positions are in engineering. Another 33% are in operations. Again, you're seeing that strong orientation towards STEM. And then a few in quality assurance, supply chain, and IT that typically come from those types of backgrounds as well. From a workforce perspective, as Deborah alluded to, one of the things that is of real concern to Aerojet currently is the overall aging of the workforce and sometimes the difficulty of attracting new entrants into our industry. We did this frequently. We've been working on some industry surveys. We figured out that by 2016, nearly 70% of our workforce will be over age 50. So we have a real need at Aerojet to attract people that are mid-career or entry-level people into our organization and our industry as a whole. I won't go into a lot of the points that we have about STEM. We're certainly a company that is involved both at a national and state and local level in the markets where we work and try to advance the STEM education efforts at every level, elementary, middle school, high school, community college, and advanced degree programs as well. But one of the things that we're really looking at in conjunction with other industries that have the same need for STEM is how do we attract people to our industry? There's glamorous careers in the high-tech world and the media and entertainment types of companies that use the same or recruit from the same populations of engineering and scientific professionals that we do. One thing that is a deterrent sometimes to new workers coming into our industry is the cyclical nature, the downturns in our industry, the fact that a lot of students are aware that there are issues of job security with uncertainty of federal budgets and so forth for our type of work. So how do we overcome that, attract and retain the individuals that we need? Complicating that is the decrease in enrollment, especially here in California. The engineering schools are fewer and fewer of the students enrolled in those programs are U.S. citizens. Many of them are foreign students. And so with our need for people who can be security cleared, we're really going after the U.S. students. And as we heard from the individuals from the community colleges, a lot of times our own population of students are not as prepared going into college to make it in a degree program like that. One of our concerns in California, the rising cost of education at both the community college, CSU, and UC level, can also be an inhibitor to U.S. students who may not have the funds to pay for their education. They need to work. It extends their period of time in already rigorous programs. The one thing that is important to us that we value greatly about being in California is the number of schools that are very fine schools, very, very competitive schools in the disciplines from which we recruit. So we believe that there is that capability, but tapping into that is becoming more difficult as the enrollments decline. Another thing that we're focused on from a workforce perspective is just the overall partnership with education and some of the things that we're doing there. We have a GenCorp Foundation. GenCorp is the parent company for Aerojet. GenCorp's primary goal is to invest in education, both at the elementary, secondary, and college levels. So really working with our GenCorp Foundation to partner with schools that have the engineering departments and math curriculum and so forth that can benefit our industry as a whole and Aerojet in particular. Some of the things that we do there are providing scholarships, academic assistance programs, tutoring programs, and some of our top engineering or management professionals being involved in curriculum development, mentoring with students and so forth that are in those programs. We have in Camden, Arkansas, worked with Lockheed and others on a partnership with the local college to come up with a 2-year program, certification program in the manufacturing arena. Camden is one of our larger manufacturing locations. We've invested heavily there, helping to bring in local workforce to those better paying manufacturing jobs that are available in our industry. We're looking at how could we do something like that here or in Southern California in partnership with our community colleges as well. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Deb, who will talk with us a little bit about some of the regulatory environment in California.
As Elizabeth stated, we have operating facilities in 10 different states. So that maybe gives us a unique ability to compare costs of operating in those states versus in California. One of the areas that really drives our costs, our manpower, and resources is addressing the enhanced environmental climate in California versus in some of the other states. The differences that we see between the U.S. EPA and Cal EPA regarding air and water quality requires considerable resources on Aerojet's part for operating in California. So this does drive costs. That was one question that came up earlier with this panel, is what are the types of things that cause it to be expensive to operate in California?
Related to that are some of the employment regulations that differ in California. I'll be very brief because these are covered in the white paper that we provided to you. But for example, one of the current things that we're looking at is, as a DoD contractor, we're required to have a drug-free workplace. And there has been, SB 129 introduced here in California that would allow for medical marijuana prescriptions in the workplace. So that is in direct conflict to what we're required to maintain as a federal contractor. And those types of things can put us in a situation where we're making a choice about where we're going to be compliant, and could complicate and add cost to how we operate from an HR perspective. Also, some of California's labor laws related to overtime make it less likely that we can offer the flexible workforce, or a flexible workplace that some of our other operating locations can afford. For example, the daily overtime versus the weekly overtime that's typical in most other states. And then, of course, California's workers' compensation regulations are more stringent than they are in other states. And I think that we value the priority that California places on a whole on worker safety, the environment, having a workplace that is conducive to the quality of life that we'd like to have in California. But some of those things do need to be looked at in terms of a competitiveness standpoint for doing business here for our industry versus other states in which we operate.
So in terms of where we see that the Assembly could help us, political support. As we've mentioned, it's becoming more and more difficult to attract talent to our industry because there is so much uncertainty associated with it. Elizabeth brought up the fact that it's very cyclical. People understand that. Young people understand that. So in any way, if it's possible to put some emphasis on, let's get NASA to make some decisions. Let's understand where the Department of Defense is going. Work with your counterparts within the federal system to help with that stability. Additionally, encouraging federal education funding for the STEM disciplines is another area that I think is very valuable, that Aerojet believes is very valuable. So just in summary, we have a lot more detail in the white paper, but we do have challenges within our environment now. We're constantly in a position of competing for new contracts. When it costs more for us to do business in California than our competitor in Florida, for example, it puts us at a disadvantage as we're competing for those new contracts. We're committed to growing our business in this area, and we believe our technology, our innovation is going to help position us. And if we can get some stability, that will further our ability to grow the aerospace business here in Sacramento and California. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rickman. And any questions from anyone? I have a real quick question. What is the main component of your green propellants if it's not classified information? What is it, an algae form, or what is it exactly?
Actually, we have several different types of green propellants. Most of them use liquid oxygen. We all breathe oxygen. Right. We use ethanol.
Based from,
Well, it's probably from corn and
okay,
yeah.
not chips or, anyway.
No. So that's one of them. We've the award that we've just received from NASA recognized the work that we did with methane, and which is considered to be also a green propellant.
Interesting. Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Just an observation.
Yes.
We often speak of science and technology and math in college level. Don't see many of our students want to participate, but it has to go back to the basis of what we're doing at a kindergarten level and why aren't we making it interesting for our children to continue. Robotic has come into the picture and made our high school students get excited, but that's almost towards the end of their high school degree. So the concentration has to go way back from the very beginning where we can make science and math fun for them to carry it through, and hopefully we'll see more of our sons and daughters get involved in science and math.
We have seen that work. I'll just respond to that quickly. We have, through our GenCorp Foundation, a number of volunteers who go out into the usually elementary, but I have heard some go into kindergarten, usually based on the fact their own kids may be in the school, and perform rocketry experiments or other types of chemical or electrical experiments that get kids excited, and it does seem to work. We've had some of those kids remember that all the way into high school and contact us for summer jobs and internships in college and that type of thing. So it can work. Just one small example.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember one youngster I met didn't really care much about math except when he wanted to figure out how to have a robot's arm go up. So once that becomes a goal, then it's much more interesting, right?
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Find the right goal.
Thank you, Ms. Zacharias. Okay, next from Lockheed Martin, Ms. Annette Rodriguez is here with the Government Relations Department of Lockheed.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
And I have to apologize for Ed Irvin, our VP for International Business. He was going to give these remarks, but he lost the right rear wheel off his tire just driving off the Bay Bridge this morning coming. So last I heard from him, he was in Berkeley waiting for a tow truck.
Wow. Well, we hope he's okay.
Yes, he is.
All right.
He is okay. His car's not so good. But I want to thank you, Betsy, for putting together this Aerospace Committee, and to all the committee members for taking the time here to learn more about the aerospace industry. My name is Annette Rodriguez, and I'm the Director of California Government Relations for the Lockheed Martin companies in California. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with my colleagues from the other aerospace industries. As I listen to them describe the history of their companies, it directly mirrors ours, and many of their programs are familiar because we all seem to work on the same programs, either as prime contractors or subcontractors. So the background I'll give you on Lockheed Martin is more of numbers. And remember, this perspective is a perspective from international affairs within Lockheed Martin, because we are a global company. And we try to use the analogy of our business, our international business, to our national business and the state business as we look at innovation and how we do business. In California, Lockheed Martin has over 16,000 employees, which amounts to about 13% of our total company workforce. Lockheed Martin, while U.S. based, defines itself as a global security company principally engaged in the research, design, development, manufacture, integration, and sustainment of advanced technology systems, products, and services around the world. In California, Lockheed Martin has a distinguished 60-year history in developing and operating a wide range of aerospace and aeronautical systems, fulfilling many missions, including space exploration, communication satellites and instruments, meteorology and Earth observations, satellites, missile defense systems, manufacturing, and flight research. Our parent corporation has a significant global presence with international sales exceeding $7 billion of the $45 billion in 2010, approximately 15% of our annual revenues. International competition is growing, and we realize we must continue to innovate and adapt to the changing global market, while concurrently ensuring that our initiatives remain well aligned with U.S. government policies, including export control. We also recognize the changes in the global economy and are adapting accordingly. Affordability, as you heard earlier, and cost reduction are our top priorities. Over the past 12 months, the corporation has reduced capital expenditures, frozen salaries of senior executives, consolidated facilities, divested 2 businesses, and implemented a voluntary executive separation program, which has reduced senior executive leadership ranks by about 26% of that workforce. The total employee count for Lockheed Martin Corporation stands at 126,000 versus 146,000 2 years ago. In that regard, I'd like to share a few perspectives. As a company, continued performance, affordability, and innovation is required to sustain us in the 21st century as the world's leading aerospace company. For our conversation today, let me focus on innovation. First, we rely heavily on technology innovation in our business. Our Advanced Technology Center, located in Palo Alto, California, and our Skunk Works in Palmdale focus on innovations in space and solar sciences, materials, optics, nanotechnology, data processing, stealth, hybrid, flight, and intelligent technologies, just to name a few. These organizations have over 1,500 scientists and engineers working state-of-the-art technologies, often working closely with research institutions and universities. Second, we recognize that equally important to technology innovation will be the ability of the industry to bring innovation to our business case. Lockheed Martin recognized early on that innovation would be the key to achieving the DoD customers' affordability targets. By the time the Congress decided on major cuts to budgets, Lockheed Martin already had maturing initiatives underway that anticipated the direction the government was going. Quoting our Chief Financial Officer, fundamentally, it's about improving the way we do business in our company and with our supply chain. Third, we have a robust supplier diversity program aimed at leveraging a range of small business innovations for our missions while concurrently providing valuable work for these businesses. We know that small business is an integral part of the innovative engine of the economy, and as such, Lockheed Martin is actively pursuing, developing, and maturing small business innovative research programs. Approximately 50 to 60% of the funding for our contracts is flowed to our supply chain, with approximately 13% of this funding going to small, diverse businesses. For example, in FY10, $457 million was spent with 1,656 California small businesses by Lockheed Martin Space and Aeronautics, our 2 largest business units in California. That's our first level tier of subcontracts. If we have subcontracts with other companies like Boeing or Northrop Grumman, they also have their small business goals. This represents over 13% of more than the $3.5 billion spent with California suppliers. Just as business innovation enables our international business, enterprise zone initiatives and similar economic development initiatives by states are very important factors to our affordability innovations. Many of our suppliers benefit from California enterprise zone initiatives, which in turn make Lockheed Martin more competitive in the global marketplace. We also directly benefit from these zone initiatives, especially at our Skunk Works facility in Palmdale. Fourth, we work closely with other U.S. and international companies and universities through strategic partnerships and alliances to better serve our global customers. At our Advanced Technology Center in Palo Alto, we have a long history of technical collaborations with California universities, ranging from tactical use of their innovations in our products and services to more strategic engagements where professors work as principal investigators on our contracts, or we provide technical experts to serve as PIs on their prime contracts. We also have visiting scientists from UC universities and others working in our lab in Palo Alto as part of the Living with a Star program. Additionally, our Skunk Works in Palmdale partners with 6 California universities to support many technology studies. Our partnerships then yield the ability to recruit the next generation of aerospace engineers. Global competition in the aerospace industry has become intense within the U.S., as well as with our international competitors. The vast majority of our international competitors are strongly subsidized by their governments. Competition is fierce, especially with the current global economic crisis. We now see that within the U.S. State governments are more proactively supporting our industry, which will in turn help us to be more competitive in the global market. The world we live in is increasingly uncertain, as you've heard from others and as you know from the news. And there are some real global challenges that aerospace technology can uniquely address. We will be challenged by a growing population, lack of basic resources, and unrest in foreign soils, and not to forget threats to our own country. These challenges provide an excellent opportunity for the global aerospace community to partner and cooperate in the design and implementation of robust, operationally focused air power solutions, climate and environmental monitoring satellites, and other satellite-based solutions that will provide the technologies needed to actively address our global challenges. As an example, in space, we are developing an advanced next-generation commercial high-resolution imaging satellite called GOI-2. It will provide our customers with significantly greater clarity, the ability to understand, monitor, and respond to man-made and natural environmental processes and impacts. This capability will help governments and other government entities and others in responding to natural and man-made disasters around the world. In aeronautics, we are developing hybrid airlift technologies to support homeland defense, and it could provide an economical way to provide food and services to underdeveloped nations. Our focus on unmanned systems will continue to provide state-of-the-art weapons and intelligence to the warfighter. How these challenges can be converted into real business opportunities remains to be determined. However, innovation will be key in this discovery. In closing, Lockheed Martin is applying a disciplined approach to growing our business base, leveraging innovation, partnerships, and close coordination with policy leaders, international competition, International competition in aerospace is intense, and our success will in part depend on the ability of ourselves, our state government, and our U.S. government colleagues in successfully creating an environment and advocacy for our products and services. Through the benefits of enterprise zones and other economic development incentives, and indirectly through our supply chain businesses located in California, Lockheed Martin continues to remain interested in enhancing these relationships in support of our company, the state of California, and our country. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts on innovation in the context of growing aerospace business, current and future challenges. I would like to share a 2-minute video of what we do at Lockheed, too.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know. Can you hear it?
Scientists see the world as it is and seek ways to explain it. Engineers see the world as it can be and seek ways to build it. A world where the people of all nations are secure and free to pursue their dreams and aspirations. Where transportation flows freely and the exchange of ideas abounds. A world where energy is as limitless as the sea, and sickness and disease have been conquered. Where the power of technology serves the greater good and unleashes the power of creativity. Where governments have the tools they need to serve and protect their citizens, and our most cherished ideals are realized. This is the world we all want to see. Every man and woman of Lockheed Martin, scientists and engineers, thinkers and doers, shapers of futures, seeing the world as it can be, serving those whose mission it is to achieve it.
Are there any questions?
Anyone for questions? No? Skunk Works?
I don't have any question. It's kind of like with Dr. Goering. I appreciate watching the B-2. I appreciate watching the F-22 do. It's not flying because I've never seen an airplane do what the F-22 does.
Yeah.
So watching that is like watching something that's out of a space film. But I guess I do have a question, Annette, on what Lockheed's future in California. And I asked this of everyone, of Northrop, of Boeing, of Aerojet said that they were committed to being here in California. I traditionally go to the Plant 42 and talk to all the major contractors. That's my first question. Mm-hmm. Commitment to California. And if you don't, then what can we do here as California legislators? Because there are things that obviously other states attract businesses. We know that. Regulations, and I think the 40-hour work week was one that was brought up, things of that nature, flexibility. It's not all about a workforce. We know that a workforce has to be there because it is math, engineering, and technology. But what we want to know is how can we help?
And what we tried to say in our remarks is we have to always look at the innovative approach to what's the best business model. And we're going to always look to where do we get the best bang for the buck. And an example we used was the enterprise zones. we can find something to keep that going that helps justify our business case, because all of us here are competing with each other to where we can cut costs. And even now it's getting even worse. We're really going to have to cut it. Some of us have advantages because we've been here a long time, so we have the infrastructure here that can support that. So when you factor in that cost, we have that advantage over one of the other companies based on the program that we're going after. But when we look at a program, when we look at manufacturing, say we've got to manufacture a new satellite, we look at not only all of our facilities, but what it would cost to start up a new facility. And when a state comes to you and says, I know you need 100 people to build this satellite, can you use a building in our state to do it? And can we provide you with employees and incentives to train them? We've got to weigh those. And so it's really, I don't know that the regulations, we've learned to live with a lot of the regulations, unless you change them to a point where it's going to cost a lot of money to live with them.
We can do that.
Yeah, and I know you're good at that. Yeah, I know. We just got one vetoed. but we look at incentives, and that's where we're looking at innovative ways to do things. I mean, we run into it in the international marketplace all the time, where we find countries that are actually subsidizing companies so that they can compete against us. But it's the same when we go to other states.
Well, and it's a little self-serving question because of our enterprise zone in Palmdale. And I know Marcia's involvement.
Yeah.
It's kind of a softball question, but it is something that people have to understand. Some of these types of advantages here in California are what keep businesses. I mean, you only have one goal, and that's to make money, I hope.
That's right.
Morally and ethically, it's to make money.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes you can make money. You can make more money in another state, and that attracts you. So we've always got to be looking at how we can keep you here so that you are making more money, you are putting in a quality product, and we want to keep you here. My area, Palmdale, is very interesting. We have an area 28 miles to the north, Edwards Air Force Base, which is probably the premier testing facility on the planet. Back in the 50s, you couldn't build too far away from Palmdale.
Right.
Because you had to test at Edwards. Nowadays, and I know that we're having Boeing come up here, and we had Rockwell out there building the B-1, and that was a huge project for Palmdale, and they tested it right at Edwards, which we test today almost everything. But it was so close in proximity, that was kind of the nexus there. I don't like to say this to everyone, but you can build outside of Plant 42 now. Right. And you can build in Texas, and you can build in other countries, and you can test somewhere. So I'm always asking, and the panel is very good about this, that, how do we keep you here, and specifics and things like that, because we want you to make money. I do. I want you to make as much as you possibly can. That keeps you here.
That keeps us here. Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Okay.
Anything? No, thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez, very much. Next, from Boeing is Ms. Nanette Bouchard, who is with their Space and Security Division. Welcome.
Thank you. I am very sorry I did not bring a video. I'm really disappointed. I didn't realize it was an opportunity to brag a little bit about our wonderful products and services. If you invite us back, I'll correct that next time through. But thank you for inviting me to be here today. I'm honored to speak on behalf of the Boeing Company and our 22,000 employees in California. I'm Nan Bouchard. I'm Vice President for Program Management for Boeing Defense, Space, and Security. I work in Seal Beach, and I live in Glendale. Today I'll provide you with a high-level overview of the Boeing footprint in California and address some of the topics you asked about, including the workforce in our future. So a Boeing overview, if we were to make a movie about the history of Boeing in California, the title would be Innovation. The portfolio of history-making products designed and built here touches on every aspect of aerospace and aviation, spanning the first commercial geosynchronous satellite, the DC-10 commercial airplane, and the amazing space shuttle, which recently flew its last mission. Listed among the credits would be the names of our heritage companies, such as Hughes, McDonnell Douglas, and Rockwell, built by creative pioneers who thrived and grew in a hospitable climate. Today, Boeing continues to occupy a diversified footprint spanning commercial aviation, military aircraft, network systems, satellite manufacturing, and new markets such as cybersecurity. The company's direct and indirect economic footprint in California is substantial. Employees work at more than 50 locations throughout the state, but the largest concentration is in the Los Angeles area. We have 3 sites, El Segundo, Long Beach, and Huntington Beach, each with more than 5,000 employees. In 2009, the most recent year for which the data is available, the annual state payroll was nearly $2.4 billion. California is also home to more Boeing suppliers than any other state. In 2010, there were 5,755 suppliers here, and the company spent more than $6 billion on goods and services with them. The core business areas for Boeing in California are primarily on the defense side. Headquartered in Seal Beach is our Space and Intelligence Systems, the company's center for all intelligence, military, and commercial satellites. This business operates the world's largest satellite design and manufacturing facility in El Segundo, as well as Spectralab, the world's largest manufacturer of solar cells, and a San Fernando Valley fixture for more than 50 years. Our Network and Technical Division is headquartered in Huntington Beach and draws on the power of integrated networks and tactical systems to connect and protect U.S. sailors, soldiers, and airmen. One of our most visible California-grown products is the C-17 Globemaster. I hope that is also flown over your head. The last large airplane still being built in California and about to mark the 20th year of operations. The C-17 is the world's premier heavy airlift transport and has proven itself a versatile strategic and theater airlifter in every recent worldwide operation, from Operation Iraqi Freedom to humanitarian relief efforts across the globe. The C-17 production facility is located in Long Beach. More than 200 C-17s have been delivered to date to our Air Force customer, and current focus is on increasing international sales to keep the production line going beyond 2014. Other significant business areas in the Los Angeles region include our Boeing Commercial Aviation Services team, also provides engineering and related services to heritage commercial aircraft built at the former Douglas facility there, and new designs like the 787. In the high desert area of Edwards Air Force Base, we have Boeing employees supporting flight test operations for new designs, both manned and unmanned, commercial and defense. So we feel that the spirit of innovation is alive and flourishing at Boeing. Our ability to thrive in California is more challenged. The panel had requested that as part of our presentation, we address the workforce skill gaps, and I'll talk about that. But there are near-term issues impacting workforce that I'd like to address first. Since 2000, the Boeing workforce in California has shrunk from 36,700 to around 22,000 today. That's a drop of almost 15,000 employees in California. Some of this is attributable to the merging and integration of heritage companies, but the headcount decline is also symptomatic of a more serious problem, and that is the cost of doing business in California. A recent example is for Boeing was the move of our B-1 program from Long Beach to Oklahoma. The B-1 bomber was designed and built in California, so it wasn't an easy decision. But as we reviewed the anticipated operating costs for the next several years, it became clear that major actions were needed to remain affordable for our customers. The same cost barriers can come into play when we look at new programs and services and where to place them. The challenges of doing business in California are not unique to Boeing and have been well cataloged. It is for these reasons that we applaud the recent rollout of the Economic Development Plan by the administration of Governor Brown and Lieutenant Governor Newsom. This plan proposes solutions to many issues businesses face in California, such as cumbersome and complex regulatory environment that is greatly in need of streamlining. Support for manufacturers, the linchpin of the U.S. economy, is another area that the Lieutenant Governor's Economic Development Plan addresses. California is one of the only few states that taxes manufacturers on job-creating investments in plants and equipment. In kicking off the Economic Development Plan, the Lieutenant Governor, speaking on behalf of the administration, said that this was the beginning of a statewide conversation. I would offer that today we are continuing that conversation and furthering our support in making that plan a reality. The recommendation to create a cabinet-level position overseeing economic development is a critical first step and should be implemented as quickly as possible. I've talked about our programs and operations and how innovation is at the core of what Boeing does and is. The embodiment of that innovation is our workforce. Boeing employs more than 159,000 people across the United States and in 70 countries. More than 123,000 of those employees hold college degrees, including nearly 32,000 advanced degrees, in virtually every business and technical field from approximately 2,700 colleges and universities worldwide. Engineers make up about 30% of that workforce. As the baby boomers start to retire, we, like many other advanced technology companies, are facing the impending skills shortage. The Aerospace Industries Association estimates that while U.S. graduates approximately 70,000 engineers each year, as the Aerojet folks mentioned, only 44,000 of them are eligible for defense aerospace careers due to security clearance requirements. Boeing continues its strong efforts to prepare the future workforce for tomorrow's jobs and careers by advocating for improvements in education at all levels, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM disciplines. We forge strategic partnerships with educational and other institutions and contribute volunteer and financial investment in educational initiatives, including internship and private-public partnerships. I'll share a little bit of what we're doing in California. Numerous teams of students from California participate each year in the FIRST robotics program. Its annual program culminates in an international robotics competition and celebration. And if you've ever been to it, it is a celebration, where teams win recognition and perhaps discover an unforeseen career path. This year, Boeing sponsored more than 150 teams, and a Boeing mentor team from Carson, the California Academy of Math and Science, earned national honors. Boeing has a long-standing partnership with the Long Beach Unified School District, one of the largest urban districts in the country. Together, we are working to increase the number of math-certified teachers, enhance algebra readiness at the elementary school level, and to identify a STEM curriculum leader who will help link core academics to real-world experiences and future workplace needs, bringing engineers to the classroom to serve as STEM mentors and guides. Public-partner partnerships are another area where Boeing is trying to make a difference. We are partnered with the Los Angeles and Orange County school systems to promote arts education in the classroom. You may express surprise at an engineering company like Boeing being so interested in promoting the arts, but we recognize that arts are about creativity and imagination, just like engineering. We are teamed with the Los Angeles County Arts Commission on Arts for All, which seeks to implement K-12 arts education for every public school student in the county. We are partnered with the Orange County Department of Education on Arts Advantage to bring a program together, bringing school administrators, teachers, parents, and business leaders to establish and expand current arts education programs. We also work with college institutes to enhance undergraduate curricula support, continuing education of Boeing employees, recruitment for internships and employment, and collaboration on research that benefits the long-term needs of our businesses. For 2011, the company invested more than $1 million in partnership with California higher education institutions. We have an extensive internship partnership with over 1,200 interns working at Boeing this summer, more than 90 of those in Southern California. As we invest in education, let's make sure that the organizations we fund are organizations that get results. Assessments of programs that have made a difference for more than a decade reveals there are 5 key elements a program or policy must have to ensure success. First, kids need hands-on practical skills and experiences that help them grow. Love the California Community College Technical Explorer program. That was fabulous. We also found that students learn better in a school where they can relate to the subject being taught. They need role models, and they need mentors. And finally, they need incentives and motivations to do better. In addition to ensuring that we support these initiatives, which incorporate the 5 elements I mentioned, Boeing also recommends several actions to strengthen education in America. We support expanding scholarships and other financial aid and retention programs for undergraduate students pursuing STEM studies, so that U.S. institutions of higher education successfully graduate more students in these disciplines. We recommend there be stronger support, including incentives, towards the preparation of primary and secondary school teachers, with the goal of ensuring U.S. colleges and universities produce enough qualified science and math teachers. Finally, we recommend enhancing support for 2- and 4-year institutions that provide students with hand-on experience. Looking to the future, everyone is familiar with the painful process the country is undergoing to address the debt issues and to regain the economic footing. At this time, it's too early for us to determine what specific implications of the recently passed debt ceiling legislation will be for Boeing and the products and services we provide. The company has been anticipating flattening defense budgets for some time, so in addition to the ongoing initiatives to maximize affordability and improve productivity, we have been positioning ourselves for growth by focusing on international opportunities, as well as moving into new markets and targeted adjacencies. Our immediate focus is on the fiscal year 2012 budget and emphasizing the relevance of our programs and our performance in delivering them to our government customers at the best value for the taxpayer. Certainly, there's no question that the aerospace industry is undergoing a transformation and needs our customers are changing and evolving. Boeing is changing too. There is no such thing as tradition or status quo in aerospace. We must always be thinking creatively to sustain our competitive edge and design products that will delight and satisfy our customer. Only last week, we announced a strategic alliance with another company, not to team up to build a new airplane or a rocket, but to develop smart grid technologies to improve energy access and security for the Department of Defense. For Boeing in California, while it is true that our footprint is smaller, it is still significant, and we are passionate about the products and services we provide. We remain committed to being a good neighbor and reaching out to communities where we live and work, to continue to strive to make California a great state. In what could be considered a sequel to Part 1 of the Boeing innovation story in California, the state still represents a fertile market for new and innovative companies. In 2010 alone, 3 of the companies Boeing acquired were either headquartered or had offices in California, including CDM Technologies in San Luis Obispo, and all represented new market areas that the company is pursuing. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Bouchard. Anyone want to ask a question? Or I just want to thank Boeing for their involvement in the community. I live in Marina Del Rey, and El Segundo is right there, and you're everywhere, and it's really, really great because we have to invest in our youth, and you participate in just about everything we do in the area. So thank you for that.
No,
really,
our
really
employees
important.
are, very, very committed to the community and education environment across the board, and we hope to have you come and visit our plant soon.
Anytime, anytime. Yes, anyone? Mr. Knight, no? Okay. Is there any public comment or anyone that wants to say anything from the gallery, if you will? No? Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. We do want to be partners with you all, speak on behalf of the Assembly members of not only this committee, but of the Assembly itself, in saying that we're honored and delighted and thrilled to have the aerospace community so large and strong here in California. And so we do need to work to make sure that you stay here. We're giving you as much as we can. We're going to go and visit a couple of installations around the state. We have another member of the committee, Assembly Member Jeff Gorell, who actually is in Afghanistan until next March. He was away on a tour of duty, so when he comes back, we'll get him involved too. But we want to do a couple launches and just get to know the community quite well. So if you have ideas, skunk work sounds like a good one to me. Yes, yes. I would love to entertain that possibility. So with that, thank you everyone for being here. Please keep your ideas coming, and the words creativity and innovation are really so important, and thank you for all that you do. Thanks. Bye.